Today we're going to look at isosceles triangles and equilateral triangles and how that works with the angles in a triangle. Just a reminder that an isosceles triangle is a triangle with two or more congruent sides. And this first theorem that we have is the one we're going to make the most use of. It's the isosceles triangle theorem. It says if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite those sides are congruent. I want you to write this out in a different way also, and maybe this will be easier for you to remember. Please add this: in an isosceles triangle, the base angles are congruent. In an isosceles triangle, the base angles are congruent. I think that's the easiest way to remember this one. So in this triangle, the two legs are the two congruent segments, segment ST and segment RT. The other side is the base. The base angles are the two angles at the ends of the base. Now, all through school, in elementary school and probably most of middle school, when something was called the base, it was always on bottom, right? It may be helpful to you on these problems, and I know it's difficult when it's in the book and it's on your computer, but if it's on a worksheet especially, you may want to actually physically take your paper and turn it so that the base is what's on bottom, because your brain may think of that more easily then. So if that's the base, then these two angles, S and R, these two base angles, are going to be congruent to each other. And this allows us to do all kinds of problems. For example, these three, where we're solving this for x. I'm going to suggest to you, it's not a requirement, but it's a suggestion, that you always mark which side is the base. So here are the two congruent sides. This side then is the base. So the two angles that are congruent then are the two angles at the ends of the base. X is 71. Done. You don't have to do anything else for this problem. Now, if you wanted to find angle B, you could do it, but you don't have to on this one. All right, for this triangle, here I've got the two congruent sides, so the other side is the base. If you want to, take your paper, turn it sideways so that the base is on bottom. For a lot of people, that's helpful because it's the way that you're used to seeing isosceles triangles drawn. Well, that means the two angles at the ends of the base, R and T, are congruent to each other. So the measure of angle T is 40. But they didn't ask us for that. They asked us for this angle, so I'm just going to go, okay, well, add those two together. So that's 80. Subtract from 180. Tells me this angle is 100. Okay, questions about that? Okay, then for this last one, again, it's an isosceles triangle because two sides are congruent. So the side that's not congruent to the other ones is called the base. And the two angles at the ends of the base are going to be congruent to each other. So these two are the same. So if that's x, so is this. And what do we know about these angles? Yeah, their sum is 180. So x plus 90 is equal to 180. So grouping like terms and subtracting 90 from both sides gives me 2x is 90. So x is 45. This is called a 45-45-90 triangle. It's not important that you remember that right now. But a little bit later in this semester, we're going to do a lot of things with 45-45-90 triangles. All right, let's go on to page 2. The converse of the isosceles triangle theorem turns this around. It says that if two angles of a triangle are congruent, then the sides opposite those angles are congruent. In other words, if I've got two congruent angles, the side that runs between them is the base. And the other two sides are the legs, which are always congruent to one another. So for this one, we've got that these two angles are congruent to one another. So this side is the base. If that side's the base, then these two sides are the congruent legs. Remember, the sides in a triangle don't add up to anything in particular. But I do know that 5x minus 8 is going to be the same length as 3x plus 2. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, and I get 2x. I'm going to add 8 to both sides and get 10. So x is 5. And the length of CA is 7 times 5 minus 18. It's 35 minus 18 is 17. Again, in the other direction, if these two sides are congruent, those are the legs, so this is the base. So we know that these two angles are the same size. So that means then that 6y is equal to 8y minus 16. If I subtract 8y from both sides, I get that negative 2y is negative 16. Divide by negative 2, and I get that y is equal to 8. Then on this one, they throw kind of a curve at you. They say, find angle n, and they gave you nothing about angle n. Anytime stuff like that happens, find what you can find. We can find the measure of angle P. It's going to be 6 times 8 is 48. And then I know angle P and angle M are the same size, so this is 48 also. And the angles in any triangle add up to 180, so I'll take 48 and 48 and add them together. That's 96. So it's 180 minus 96. Is 84. So this angle is 84. Questions about that? All right, then if we extend this one step further, if a triangle is equilateral, where all the sides are the same, then all the angles are going to be the same. If it's equilateral, it's also equiangular. and each angle has a measure of 60 degrees then. Or if it's equiangular, we're going to know that it's also equilateral. So here, if we know that this triangle is equilateral, all the sides are equal, we know that it's equiangular, and all the angles have a measure of 60. So 2x plus 32 is going to be 60. So that's 2x is 28. Divide and we get x is 14. Here, if this is equiangular, well, we know that all the sides are congruent then. So 4x plus 12 is equal to 5x minus 6. Subtract the 4x and add the 6. And we get that x is equal to 18. Any questions about that? All right, your assignment's in the book. I need to step outside for just a second because somebody's making a delivery for the play for me. So y'all be good for a minute.
That's what I said.
Bro, she is not bad, bro. The old lady what? You said the girl was bad. Biggie, is that also? Shut up, Gio. Oh yeah, we gotta sleep.
Annie, it's about an orphan.
I know, I think they're.
Yes.
Shut up.
What is it?
Bro, you don't even know what.
Bro, she just.
Andrew.